Hi, welcome, clients of Act Advisors. I'm Doug English. This is Wes Johnson, here to talk to you about a subject you cannot get away from these days, which is the opportunity to invest in I bonds. I bonds are bonds issued directly by the federal government. They are U.S. savings bonds, and they pay a very high rate of interest. And I have seen so many articles about these things. I'm sure you have as well. So let's talk to Wes a little bit about how they work and who might want to consider investing in them. So Wes, tell us first place, why hasn't Act Advisors put I bonds in our clients' portfolios if they're such a great deal?
All right, easy answer there, Doug. Number one is you can only buy $10,000 worth of these things per year per person. So the interest rate is awesome. It pays 9.62% right now. Compared to anything you can get at the bank or the credit union, that is a phenomenal interest rate. Now, keep in mind that interest rate is only there for 6 months. It reassesses the inflation number, and every 6 months that interest rate changes. It could get higher if inflation goes up, but if inflation goes down, it could go lower. So you might sign up for or buy some of these things and get a really good interest rate for the next 6 months, and then even if it cuts in half, you're still over 4.5. That's still a pretty awesome interest rate compared to the banks or the credit union. So you can only buy 10,000. That's one of the reasons we haven't put it in our portfolios. And secondly, you can only buy it straight from treasurydirect.gov, which is the government-run website that issues savings bonds, either EE or I versions of savings bonds.
The government-run website. Now, let me, I know this is a little bit jaded, Wes, but I'm thinking that might not necessarily be a good thing.
I personally went online to the treasurydirect.gov to try to purchase some, just so I knew what the experience was like, because we have no shortage of clients who ask us about it. It was as you would expect with a government-run website. It took me 2 full days, and I'm pretty computer literate. The website crashed multiple times. It took me 2 days to get an account opened. And that would have given me the chance to finally buy my 10,000. I was going to buy some for my wife as well, but then I had to go through all that again to open an account for her. At the end of the day, I just kind of sat back and said, is this $10,000 in an I bond making 9.6 for the next year? Is that really the best place for my money? And I ended up just buying stocks because they were down 20%, and chances are I'll probably make more in the stock market over the next year. But if you want something that has no stock market exposure, no bond market exposure, it's not going to go up and down, a 9.62% is better than anything we've seen probably in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's a heck of a risk-free rate. So you have to go to treasurydirect.gov to set up an account to be able to purchase these things. That's the first step.
You got it. And you link it to your bank account online. So you have to be comfortable giving the government your bank information. And then you just electronically transfer over however much you want to buy, as long as it's not more than $10,000 per year per person.
Okay. So you go through that process, assuming you can tolerate what must be a great deal of difficulty in getting it done. But let's say that you do succeed and you get that done. You connect it via ACH. So you buy the $10,000, then you just repeat that process for your spouse if you wish.
Correct. There are a couple other things you need to know about it. And I have seen, there's no shortage of articles. At least once a week, there's one that pops up on Yahoo or wherever that tells you about these I bonds. A lot of those articles leave out some important details. Number one is you have to leave that in there for 12 months. You don't even have the option of getting your money out during the 12 months, even if you were willing to pay the penalty. So you can't redeem them for at least 12 months. If you redeem them within 5 years, they ding you 3 months worth of interest as a penalty. So it's not a bad penalty, and the smaller the interest rate is, the smaller that penalty is. So it's not a terrible penalty, but there is a penalty if you redeem them within 5 years. Now, they're savings bonds, so you can hold them up to 30 years. They'll accrue interest for 30 years. We don't know what the interest rate is. It changes every 6 months, but you can hang on to them. As long as you like the interest rate, you can hang on to them.
So let's think through this for a minute, because this being totally safe, a relatively small amount of money, I imagine a lot of folks would think of this as an alternative to a checking or savings emergency reserve account. You put $10,000 in that, and that's money that's just kind of always sitting around anyways. So that would be nice to earn almost 10% on that money that's sitting there. But a substantial catch is you cannot have that money for 12 months, right?
Correct. Where I see the best fit for this, it's kids' money. We often get clients that say, hey, I've got a child with some money from birthday, or a grandkid with money from birthdays. It's maybe a few $1,000s. And they're not necessarily willing to put it in the stock market. This is a great option. The kid probably doesn't need it for a long time, and they can actually see some meaningful interest, because if you try to teach them about compounding interest at the bank, it's hard to compound on 0.1% interest
On nothing.
Yeah. So it's not very exciting for the kid. It's not much of a lesson, but if they can get 9%, I mean, that's meaningful growth right there. So it works great for kids' money or grandkids' money, or something like that.
That's an interesting idea. So you set up a UTMA, a UGMA account. That's an account for a minor. Put however much you want in there. Is there a minimum that you know of?
$25.
$25. All right. And so you open an account for the minor, you put the money in there. The minor's on your tax return. What happens with the interest on these things?
You don't actually get a tax bill until you redeem them. So you're accruing interest the whole time. When you cash them in is when you get the 1099 showing you earned all this interest, and that's when you pay the taxes on them.
So it's a bit like an annuity where it's all tax deferred until you withdraw the money. That's when you have your tax consequence.
You got it. There is also the potential for, if the money is used for higher education for a kid or a grandkid, that interest can be tax exempt.
Oh, wow. So that really does make this a powerful idea for education savings.
It's not bad. Maybe not as good as a 529 plan, depending on which state. If you live in a state like South Carolina that gives you a state tax deduction for putting money in the 529 plan, and then you put it in the stock market, that over time will average probably more than an I bond. It may not replace the 529 plan, but it's not a bad option, especially for short-term stuff.
Yeah, an interesting supplement. Very good. Anything else for our clients about I bonds?
I don't think so. Just good luck if you decide to go down that treasurydirect.gov rabbit hole. It's fun.
And exercise in patience, perhaps.
Very much so. Yeah.
Thanks, Wes, for this information.
No problem, Doug.